Early. Okay, we are 13 minutes after 7. Good to have you along this morning. Now, a full counter-terrorism investigation is now underway after 3 people and this attacker were killed in a major terrorist incident near London's Houses of Parliament. This will happen yesterday. Now, overnight, Islamic State has claimed responsibility and a vigil is taking place this morning in Trafalgar Square. I want to head to Tova O'Brien, our European correspondent in London, very, very shortly. But this attack in London coincided, of course, with the anti-ISIS coalition summit in Washington, DC. Was the whole thing planned? It looks like it. And what role could that event have played in yesterday's events? Joining me now is Otago University International Relations expert Robert Patman. Robert, good morning to you. And
good morning, Duncan.
Good to have you on the program. Do you link this in any way?
I think it's entirely possible. ISIS is very conscious of the fact that militarily it's on the back foot. It's lost a lot of territory in the last 18 months and is seizing every opportunity to remind those countries which have signed up to the anti-ISIS coalition, the 68 of them, including New Zealand, of course, that they can be attacked in their backyard. So they've been doing this repeatedly. We saw similar incidents in Nice, France last year, July last year, and December in Berlin. So this is very much in that sequence.
Because the world has obviously cracked down on ISIS and cracked down on terrorism, but at the end of the day, it's very hard to crack down on people having cars and knives, because those things are all legal and they're easy to get.
Yes, I think you've identified the dilemma here. Militarily, ISIS have been on the back foot and, if you like, losing momentum. But politically, they are continuing to get their message across through the social media and motivate sometimes people known as lone wolves to carry out what are cost-effective, as they would see it, cost-effective operations, renting a vehicle and driving it into pedestrians and then, if possible, carrying out further attacks.
Robert, I mean, we may be able to, for lack of a better phrase, blow ISIS away militarily and get on top of them militarily. But how on earth do we ever stop this kind of civilian terror? I mean, do we have to accept that we can't?
I think we have to be patient, Duncan, and realise there's no quick fix for dealing with this problem. When Donald Trump was on the campaign trail, he said that he would deal with ISIS within days. Of course, he's rode back from that since. You have to be patient. And you have to, if you like, demoralise terrorist forces. But at the same time, and this has been a neglected dimension of the equation, today, after an atrocity in London, an appalling incident that we've just seen, where so many fine people have lost their lives, there's a lot of angry talk. And there's also talk about security preparedness and talk about what will be done to ISIS. But
now, Robert, what I'll do is I'll get you to stay there. Just stand by, because I want to head to London. We've just heard from Tova O'Brien, our European correspondent. So stand by. We'll come back to you shortly, Robert. Let's get to London now. Our Europe correspondent, Tova O'Brien, is at this vigil, and that is at Trafalgar Square. Tova, it's a massive crowd that is gathered in Trafalgar Square, and no surprise, how is London coping with this 24 hours on?
They're really they're pushing on with business as usual in London. As we talked about yesterday, the House of Commons and House of Lords was sitting as usual. They opened Westminster Bridge as well, less than 24 hours after the attack on the bridge. And it's really about people trying to get back to life, trying to unite in a show of defiance in this vigil at Trafalgar Square. Londoners and visitors to London were invited by the Mayor Sadiq Khan to come and show solidarity, to unite, to be there for one another, and also to show their sympathy to the victims of that attack, those who died and also those who are still injured and in hospital, and the family and friends of all of those people.
Tova, what can you tell us about those raids that happened overnight, New Zealand time anyway, when a number of these suspects were taken into custody across those 6 locations? Are they in any way, do we think, linked to the man, the assailant, the terrorist that was shot and killed yesterday?
Yep, we understand they are linked to the man that was shot and killed yesterday. 6 raids, as you say, in London and Birmingham. Police detectives worked, hundreds of them, we're told, through the night, and 8 people were arrested. We don't yet know if they've been charged or what they're going to be charged with or what their associations are with the suspect. But we do know that there are links, and this man, Khalid Masood, I am going to name him Duncan because I don't believe it's martyring him. I think most people, when they hear his name and learn learn about him are going to condemn him, and the more we know about him, the more we know about his motives and his preparations and his associations, the more we can try and prevent attacks like this happening in the future. So Khalid Masood, a 52-year-old man, he was born in the UK, he was born in Kent, was living in the West Midlands as far as we know. Police say there was no intelligence to suggest that he was going to undertake any kind of terror attack like this. He was known to police for various offences, assault offences, grievous bodily harm, possession of weapons, but not for any terrorism offences, and the police are really driving that one home. He wasn't on their radar in terms of terrorism.
Did the police foil a wider attack then by arresting these other suspects? Did they foil what might have been a bigger attack? Do we know?
No, that's not the impression that we're getting from the Met at this stage. What they're saying is that these people potentially linked, but that they're still considering this a lone wolf attack, that he was the lone attacker, and they're not raising the terror threat level as well, which suggests that there isn't any more intelligence or any more information that would suggest that another attack is imminent. So still being considered a lone wolf attack, Khalid Masood still being considered the only suspect at this stage.
OK, Tova, we'll leave it there. You're busy. We'll come back to you later if things develop throughout the morning as well. We're 19 minutes after 7. I want to head back to Otago University International Relations expert Robert Patman. Robert, thanks for staying with us. I just want to ask you, given that we are part of this anti-ISIS coalition, we're at this international meeting, could countries like Australia and New Zealand legitimately be subjected to an attack like this, to a domestic civilian type attack?
I'd hesitate to use the word legitimately, but I think no one is invulnerable in this situation. And ISIS have their social media presence is sophisticated and probing, and we can't rule out the possibility that somewhere, someone, it might be in New Zealand, it might be in Australia, could get motivated in this way. And after all, if they are committed and they can rent a vehicle, and they are if they're constantly following ISIS pronouncements, and ISIS are quite openly encouraging people to carry out these activities. If someone takes that message and runs with it, then they don't need automatic weapons. They can rent a vehicle, and they can carry out the sort of atrocity that we've seen. So that is worrying. But I just want to return, if I may, briefly to the question you raised: what can be done about this? I think there's a tremendous focus on the military struggle, which is absolutely appropriate. But, what mustn't be lost in this tragedy is the need to deal with the causes of this problem in the Middle East, particularly the Syrian civil war. The rise of ISIS is directly linked to the fact there's been no solution to the civil war in Syria for the last 5 years, and that needs to be dealt with. I
agree. The response has been woeful and weak. I appreciate your time on the program, Robert Patman out of Otago University. 22 minutes after 7. Good to have you along this morning. Now, after the break, we wrap up the week. This is one of my favourite parts of the week. We wrap up the week with our political panel, Jacinda Ardern and Paula Bennett, the Deputy Prime Minister. They're next.
We don't need to run.